Hey y'all, it's Lindsey. I wanted to take you along with me today as I prepare our condiments for the week. I make my own homemade mayonnaise, ranch, and Chipotle ranch that we all love. Well, Jared and I love the Chipotle. The girls aren't so keen on the spiciness, but regardless, we make those ourselves here at the house. I get asked about them pretty frequently, so I thought I would take you along with me as I prepare those for the week. But first, I want to address the elephant in the room. I don't have any makeup on. I normally always have eye makeup on. However, in this past several days, I have contracted some kind of a sinus infection, ear infection, and pink eye all together. It's been a great time, hence also my voice sounding like I have smoked 18 packs a day for the past 28 years. So I hope you can suffer through this with me, but I really needed to get this done. I had the energy to talk to you about it, so let's get going. All right, in making homemade ranch, I like to actually home make my ranch mix. I do have a little bit here, but I could stand to have more. Obviously, my label here is rubbing off. I just reuse an old spice jar from the Sam's Club-sized spices and whatnot. Works out beautifully. I like to use these OXO brand squeeze bottles for my mayonnaise, my ranch, and my Chipotle ranch. This one here is the normal sized nozzle for the regular 12-ounce bottle. They also make one that's a little bit larger that is in my refrigerator, and it has a larger nozzle, which is great whenever you're adding in seasonings like this, and the larger nozzle helps you to avoid clogging as much. These are really perfect for my ranch dressing, or not ranch dressing, I'm sorry, my mayonnaise, but whenever I blend up my spices and my ranch mix, it makes it a lot easier to get it to come out of my smaller nozzled bottles. Okay, enough chatter, let's start measuring here. I've got parsley flakes. I'm going to do 1/4 cup of this, or 4 tablespoons. That's 3, and there's 4. Okay, next up on my list is minced onion. I do about 4 teaspoons, which is the equivalent of 1 1/3 tablespoons. 3 teaspoons makes a tablespoon. That's a little bit more like 1 1/2, but we're gonna just roll with it. This is not super precise. I'm not one of those that likes to have everything just like down to the gram on seasonings. Whenever I'm baking other things, it does matter, but in this instance, it does not. Okay, onion powder, I need 2 tablespoons. Do I have enough? Let's find out. There's 1. Oh, yeah, we're good. And 2. Again, not wicked precise, but it's effective. Okay, next, my garlic powder. I need 1 tablespoon of that. I definitely have plenty in my jar for that. I really like the organic spices from Sam's Club. They come in those larger containers, and I just refill my smaller bottles, so I have those more readily accessible to me. It makes a big difference for me. Okay, next up, I'm going to use some dill weed. This is going to be a 2 teaspoon measure. Okay, 2 teaspoons of the dill, and let's see, I've got my parsley, onion flakes, onion powder. Now I've got my dill, I've got my garlic powder. Okay, salt and pepper. I'm going to do about 1 teaspoon of pepper. And then about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So half. And I'm going to go ahead and use my immersion blender, and I'm going to grind this up. I do have a dedicated grinder for sweeteners, like a coffee grinder. I don't have a dedicated coffee grinder for spices or savory things, so I will just use my immersion blender. All right, nice and powdery. Okay, so we do have a pretty decent grind on that. That will come out of our nozzle for our squeeze bottles pretty easily. Now, there's one other thing I want to add today, and that is about between 1/2 and between 1/4 and 1/2 teaspoon of this sunflower lecithin. This is something I do use frequently in my kitchen, and this will just add to that creamy mouthfeel. I could also add in some of this coconut milk powder. This will shorten the shelf life of this blend. I don't know, it does add something to the mix, but today I'm just going to stick with what I have in here. Let me whisk in this sunflower lecithin. I mean, I guess it's stirring since I'm using a spoon instead of an actual whisk. Okay. Let's grab our jar. Add this to the mix. Okay. I need to go rewrite my label on here. I love using permanent marker on glass jars because it wipes off fairly easily, but one of the drawbacks is it wipes off fairly easily. So anyway, I'm gonna go rewrite my ranch mix words on here and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, this next piece is a little bit tedious, but we're going to make a Chipotle puree. And in order to do that, I am going to take a can of Chipotles. This is a 7-ounce can. Oh, good gravy. Pop the top. Okay, I was able to pop it right there. I'm gonna grab a knife. Okay, so I've got my can open here. I just snagged about a half cup of water. I'm going to empty my can into my mixing cup here if I can. Okay, I am going to use a little bit of this water to kind of deglaze, if you will. That's not the exact term I'm looking for, but to just sort of get all of that delicious adobo sauce out of there. Okay, and now I'm going to use my immersion blender. It's one of my favorite tools in my kitchen, and I'm going to puree this. I'm just going to have about 1 more tablespoon. So that's about 1/3 of a cup total water that I've used so far. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this consistency here. It looks like it's pretty well pureed. I don't see any large chunks. There are still seeds visible in this mixture. So now the tedious part continues. I'm going to go empty the rest of this little bit of water. And here with this really fine mesh strainer, it's not quite as fine as like the finest you can get, but it is a very fine mesh strainer. I am going to begin the process of taking all of the seeds out of my puree. Those seeds will absolutely clog up your nozzle, even on the larger sized OXO bottles with the larger sized nozzles. And it's a very frustrating thing when you're just trying to get yourself some Chipotle ranch and you wind up with seeds creating all kinds of a problem. So going to this extra step, while it's not absolutely necessary if you're going to jar your sauce or your dressing here, I mean, I argue that it's absolutely necessary if you're going to do a squeeze bottle. And now I'm going to dump some of this in here, and I'm going to start to work this in to my container. This process is not a fast process, but whenever I'm done with having all of this Chipotle puree out or strained out, this amount should last me probably between 4 and 6 batches of my Chipotle ranch dressing. So I don't have to do it, but maybe, I don't know, once a month, once every 6 weeks, give or take. Okay, now that I have gone through and pushed all of that material through my strainer, I'm left with about a tablespoon of the leftover pulp and seeds. I'm definitely not tossing this. This has tremendous flavor. I'm going to put this in a little jar and save it for a soup, like maybe some chicken enchilada soup, or adding it to an enchilada sauce. That would be really, really tasty. So I'm going to hold on to that because there is really good flavor there. Okay, I am going to take a few minutes to continue straining out my Chipotle puree, and I will be back with you shortly. Okay, I got about 3/4, maybe a little more, less than 1 full cup, so maybe about 7/8 of a cup of my Chipotle puree here. And I got about 2 tablespoons of that pulp and seed mixture that's left over. Definitely holding on to that. That is a lot of good flavor right there. And now I'm just going to store this in my fridge. And your mileage may vary. I can usually get about 6 weeks out of this with absolutely no problems. Keep an eye on it. Make sure it doesn't start to smell weird. Yeah, I can use this in so many different ways, but using it as Chipotle ranch dressing mix is definitely our favorite. Okay, I am going to go get cleaned up and move on to the next step. Now that I have my 2 main ingredients, my ranch mix and my Chipotle puree sorted out, it's time to get making some actual dressings. I'm going to use my big blender because these 3 recipes build off one another. The first thing I do is make my homemade mayonnaise. I do have a dedicated video on that if you want to see me do that with with my immersion blender, I should say. I also really like to make it in my big blender whenever I am doing all 3 of these recipes in succession because it makes for less cleanup and an easier process for me. So we start with my mayonnaise, and then we build on that by adding in some ranch mix and a little bit of almond milk or whatever low-carb milk of choice you prefer or can tolerate. And then once that's all sorted out, I will extract some of that into a squeeze bottle, and then I will add in Chipotle puree to make Chipotle ranch, and that will be the final step of this process. So let's get going on some mayonnaise. Okay, wash my hands up. Let's add some salt. This is not exact. I'm going to argue about a ½ teaspoon. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of mustard. This is an emulsifier and will help the oil and the eggs come together better. A little bit of apple cider vinegar for some tang. About 2 teaspoons right there. And next up is going to be my oils. I cannot just take the whole lid off of my Ninja mixer or blender here. It will not work, so I have to do a little bit of a modified situation. This does get very messy with this pour spout, so I use a kitchen cloth to shield my kitchen from the splatter. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of avocado oil first. This does take a little bit of time and patience, so bear with me. I'm going to click my blender on high and then start adding all of my oil. Another piece about my blender here is that it will auto shut off after 2 minutes, so I had to go through and do a total of 6 minutes or 3 full cycles on this. And I have really thick, creamy looking mayonnaise here. Very excellent. Scrape it all off the top. Don't want to leave any goodness behind. And with that, 5 eggs and close to probably 5 cups of oil, I got 5.5, almost 6 cups of mayonnaise. And now I need to fill up some Mayo bottles. And to do that, I'm going to keep my lid close by. I'm going to use my pastry bags. I use these for so many uses here in my kitchen. They come with the little rubber bands to kind of help you seal off the end whenever you are piping things, like you seal off this top end so nothing dribbles out. It also is helpful whenever you're trying to just fill the bag. Okay, I'm going to fill only one of my 12-ounce jar or bottles of mayonnaise today. All right, that might be enough. It might not be. Let's give it one more. All right. Move my carrier jar out. Any extra that I have left over, I can just easily squeeze back into my blender. All right, mayonnaise down. Let's move on to ranch. Okay, right here I have approximately 4 cups of mayonnaise. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use probably a 1/4 cup of my ranch mix. This is one of those moments where you choose your own level of flavor. You know what, we're gonna make it a heaping 1/4 cup. That works. A little bit messy. It's fine. It's fine. We're all fine. Okay, I'm gonna get this going. And while this is blending, I'm gonna add in a little bit of almond milk. If you do not do well with almond milk, choose your own liquid of choice. As you can see, that's not super well blended on the outside edges. I only used about 1/4 cup of almond milk just to get things moving. I like to add a tiny bit of almond milk at a time instead of dumping in a full amount, just because every recipe of mayonnaise winds up being slightly different. There's no guarantee that I've used the exact same amount of oil each time. Each egg is slightly different sized. So it's really more about the texture or consistency that you prefer, and adding a tiny bit of your ingredients each time to achieve that. So I think I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup more of this almond milk, and I'm going to whiz it through again now that I've scraped down all my sides. All right, let's see what we have here. This thickness is looking really good. We really like thick ranch dressing. I know a lot of people prefer a thinner ranch dressing, so that's, you know, one of those personal choice deals. Choose what you like and accommodate that. Okay, definitely not hating that mixture right there. That's looking pretty awesome. Oh yeah, tastes great. Okay. This is a wee bit thinner, so I might be able to actually pour it straight into my squeeze bottle. Let's see if I can pour. Yes. Beautiful. Two down, last one to go. Let's go ahead and re-scrape our sides to see about how much we are left with here. For us, we generally like about 1 tablespoon per cup of ranch dressing for the spice factor. It's not too hot, and yet you still feel that delicious flavor in your mouth. I'm gonna go ahead, and this is 3 cups that I'm left with here. I'm gonna do 3 tablespoons of my puree. Okay. And then I'm also going to add a little bit more almond milk. Probably about another quarter cup. We just prefer the Chipotle ranch to be a little thinner. All right, let's whiz it up. Scrape down the sides. This Chipotle ranch is so good on eggs, on pork rinds, on tons of different things. Like if you're making wraps, it's wicked good on wraps. It's an excellent salad dressing. Okay, one last whiz. I am content with that. Okay, I want to show you the larger bottle for the Chipotle ranch. So here is my ranch bottle. Here is my Chipotle ranch bottle. As you can see, they are different. The nozzle size, I don't know if that's even going to show up. My goodness. So the nozzle size is quite a bit larger than the standard size. Let's see if I got any in there. I don't know if that's even giving you any kind of indication. Oh, good gravy. Tricky, y'all. Sorry. But yeah, the nozzles are about double the diameter from one to the other. All right, and now we have Chipotle ranch, plain old ranch, and homemade mayonnaise. For my fridge, these 3 condiments will probably last us a week, if not a little less. So in about a week's time, I will have to make more mayonnaise, and at that point, I will go through and make more of everything else. But with this Chipotle ranch, because I had 3 cups, I have about 1 cup left in my blender here. I will get this bottled up as well. So here we go. Ranch, Chipotle ranch, mayonnaise, more Chipotle ranch. We are set for the week on our condiments, and I hope that you will give these a try and let me know what you think of them. We really love them. I'll see you in my next video.